new breakfast talk show on Ben Television, Princess of Arize, a cutting-edge interactive show for people and businesses who want to arise and make a difference. Hello and welcome to another wonderful edition of Princess of Arize, your favorite breakfast talk show, coming to you on Ben Television, Sky Channel 184. How has your week been? I hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful week, and welcome to the lovely month of October. Today, of course, is Saturday, October the 1st, 2011. There are many, many things we're celebrating this wonderful month. A big happy birthday to Nigeria again. As you know, Nigeria's independence is celebrated on the 1st of October. So to Mr. President, his dear wife, the entire people of the Nigerian population on the ground there in Nigeria and in the diaspora, I say happy anniversary. And of course, to anybody who's born on 1st of October, happy birthday to you too. I remember a dear lovely young lady, Miss Ebitimi Alaibe, who celebrates her birthday also today. Also, we celebrate the beautiful month of October again in lovely terms when we talk about the Black History Month. In the UK, every year, October is that month that we celebrate Black history, Black heritage, anything that affects us Africans or Caribbeans, people of African and Caribbean descent that live in the UK, and we bring out a variety of things, be it arts, music, craft, healthcare, sciences, what have you. It's a month that we bring it out and we showcase it and put the spotlight on ourselves and our people, and there are lots of events, etc., to look out and look forward to. Today our theme is mental disabilities, an expert by experience. What is it to have a mental disability? A lot of us have a variety of meanings or understanding of it. Today, somebody who is an expert will let us know a bit more about it. And what is it to be experienced in something? What is it to be an expert in something? To be an expert, I always say, nobody can tell the story of a place or a people except the main actors. You must have sat where they sat, you must have felt what they feel, you must have touched what they touched, you must have known where they're coming from, what their hopes, their aspirations are, what are their passions, what are their pains, what do they love to celebrate, before you can call yourself an expert. So in other words, who feels it knows it. So today, don't forget our theme is mental disabilities, an expert by experience. I've got two wonderful guests with me. My first guest is going to be Mr. Tony Millar. Mr. Millar is somebody who is recovering from mental disability, and he has a wide range of experiences, being both a patient and now also an expert in the sense that he has lived it. He knows how it is, he knows what he went through, and he knows what helped him to the road of recovery. Presently, he works with the Hertfordshire, I don't want to get this wrong, he works with the Hertfordshire, the National Health Foundation Trust of the Hertfordshire Council, and he'll tell us a bit more about his work and what he does. It's the, I've got it now, the Hertfordshire Partnership NHS Foundation Trust. And our other guest is Mrs. Toyin Ogunbanjo, who herself is a counsellor. She works with people with mental disabilities, and she also has the gift of listening. She's the one that set up Listening Ears, which is a trust she set up to enable people to learn how to listen. Because once you are listened to, the person speaking has that opportunity of being understood, if not fully, at least to a very large extent, and therefore things are being done in the correct way. And with Mr. Tony Millar, I'm sure at some point in his life he did meet some person or some people that actually listened to him. A big thank you to my dream team, to Uche, to Tony, and to Benjamin, and of course the entire staff and management of Ben TV, and for you to tuning in. Before we bring on our guests, I want you to sit back, relax, for this lovely musical clip that Uche is going to play for us. Don't go away. See you shortly.
Bring salvation to the nations. For Jesus Christ of Nazareth, the most famous victim of crucifixion. I have been crucified with Christ. Hey, nevertheless, hey, I have been crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, hey, that life that I live now, I live by the faith of the Son of God that gave his life for me. That life that I live now, I live by the faith of the Son of God that gave his life for me. Not the feeling that I have, rather the pain that I get. Is the word of God that just turns things around. Not the troubles of the world, or the rumors of the world, or the dance that plenty people we say around. Whose report do I believe? The report of the Lord. I will say that on that comforter to you. Weeping angel in the night. The choice you make today will bring what you need to tomorrow. Destroy this temple in 3 days. Make I hear. Destroy this temple in 3 days. I will raise it up. I have been crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Hey, I have been crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Hey, I have been crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Hey, Jesus a man who you not see but convicted of treason. Treason. Arrested in Gethsemane, tried before say hand report just Pilate Emperor Antipa. Oh no, between Roma cat or Nates, a bit of bones that could rip off leg. Oh, name with the heavy rod iron to his wrist and his feet. Beating and start upon face the horrible death of crucifixion. Buried in the tomb of Joseph the Arimathea, brought before the salvation to the world. Go back to the movie what you were doing. Jesus Christ, the passion of Christ. Oh, Mastodon. I have been crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Hey, I have been crucified with.
Now we're going to bring you our first guest. I'd like to first of all say thank you so much to the maker of my jewelry. As you see today, I'm wearing this lovely, beautiful piece, and it was put together, handcrafted by a lovely lady called Loretta Arize, and she is indeed a bespoke jeweler. So if you'd like to touch base with her, you can always go onto her website, www.byloreal.com, or contact me and I'll give you her details. Right now, we're going to switch the cameras to Mr. Tony Millar.
Thank you, Princess. Good afternoon. My name's Tony Millar. I'm going to give you a history of my life with mental health services ranging right back to the early 80s. I am in recovery from symptoms labelled schizophrenia, substance misuse, or some other multiple diagnosis. I would not have been here if it wasn't due to changes in attitude and approaches in mental health services. My care coordinator had to work really hard in influencing my care team into cultural competence and culturally appropriate practice in understanding my needs as I expressed them. He also guided the carers lead to understand my family, my mother and my brother. You see, of course, in my family, everyone contributes to the way our life has evolved into a multiplicity of cultures. The change is also due to professionals who improved their attitude toward me, and they now understand the necessity of considering culture, ethnicity, race, social class, and all the other protective characteristics without fear. And this has made a great impact. However, this, as young-minded, positive-thinking people, I feel that as a recovering patient, I want to observe and address ongoing issues as future generations progress with concerning mental health and well-being. This is a concern for me, and this is why I'm more determined to continue my contributions towards this cause. There was one time in my life when I was labelled big, black and dangerous. The circle of fear is now broken. I know I'm still a visible minority, but now I am still big, still black, but now quite delectable. You see, in those days, no one actually looked after my sense of self-worth, my sadness, my anxiety problems, my depression, my attachment issues, nor my emotional needs. It felt as if they just followed their perception of me, and I felt as if I was deemed unworthy. Talking therapy was never mentioned. Professionals actually once asked my mother to inject my anti-psychotic medication herself. Another example of this was a CPN actually believed that I was having delusions of grandeur just because I told him I had a job as an expert by experience trainer. The Health Trust believes that I'm a success story, and it has been observed that the person I am now is definitely not the person I was in past years. Once again, I stress the point, this did not happen by accident. I admit that I've shown much perseverance and determination to make this change. But the change would not have happened if there was no understanding of cultural appropriateness and responses in practice. Today, unlike before, I find the treatment I receive now is of a more holistic and appropriate nature. I've been able to study various courses, including such as the psychodynamic approach, the person-centred approach, and I'm now pursuing studies with the Open University, as well as being involved in the Trailblazer project. When this concept of recovery came into the vocabulary, it didn't mean a thing to the professionals, but it meant a lot to me. For years I felt that being black was like being totally ignored by service providers in society. And believe me you, this does not constitute being labelled psychotic or paranoid. I hope in the future that the NHS feel and understand people's lives, old and young, no matter what class, ethnicity, race or culture, and hopefully to welcome them all, to give them a better view of life, because I can now honestly see that I suffered, that how I suffer is how other people suffer today, and because of that they had my sympathy, and they had my interests, and I hope that those interests expand onto much more authoritative levels to get through to the still suffering patients. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. I wanted you to, first of all, welcome to the Princess of Arize sofa. I see you're very comfortable. I wanted you, because when I listened to that speech of yours at a couple of weeks ago, at the big conference we had at the London Hilton Park Lane, I had tears in my eyes, because it was like, for the first time, I was seeing someone and hearing someone who was speaking on the issue of mental disability, but from the viewpoint of somebody who actually has lived it, somebody who has walked that path and traveled that journey. And indeed, congratulations, first of all, on your road to recovery, and for you being a success story, as I think the NHS call you, as you're one of their success story, case studies. Another thing I also wanted to ask you, first of all, is for people who might not quite understand why you were moved to put that speech together, or what exactly, spurred you to put pen to paper. Can you just explain very briefly to us?
Well, I'll have a CPN, an ex-CPN, my old CPN. I actually worked with him now as an expert by experience. He's one of my trainers. He trains me as an expert by experience, but I am the expert by experience.
Okay. And he doesn't say that you're suffering from delusions of grandeur.
No, it wasn't. No, that one. No.
That's a different story.
But what it is that my CPN, the guy that trains me, he's not CPN now.
And by the way, what is CPN, Tony, for people who...
I think it's chiropractic nurse.
Okay.
I think it is.
Okay. Anyway, CPN, we'll sort of find out what that is anyway.
Yeah.
But carry on, please.
But what it is that he's had a lot of faith in me ever since the clinical trial-based expert by experience started up.
Okay.
Like in April 2008.
Okay.
He used to come round to visit me and my mother, him and his work colleague, and they sat there and they told me, we want you to do this, would you be interested? And at that time I was so desperate to get on, even though my recovery was more or less getting into full swing in the top gear.
Okay.
It was like I actually agreed to carry on with this clinical trailblazer project.
Okay.
At first I wasn't too sure because of experiences with
other people that you worked with.
That I've been associated with, let's say, in the dark ages, I call them, But my CPN now and his boss, they got me to do a couple of presentations, and they actually told me, they said, you have got potential to really get a message across.
Okay.
Now, I've done it in my own little way. The longest I've ever spoken up for, I think, is about an hour and 15 minutes.
That's a lot of time. Some presidents can't even do that.
It's actually a 30-page speech essay I've got.
Wow.
And it covers all kinds of things, like all kinds of things I've studied with the Open University, which was very unfortunate because what I studied with the Open University actually bears a lot of relevance to what to the mental health issues of today, and how the delegation's getting across. But that's the longest I've spoken for. But this was a 10-minute, but this wasn't exactly a doddle, let's say. It wasn't.
But you had to sort of put your mind to it.
I had to put my mind to it, and have you ever heard of a thing called pricey? I remember that now in recovery. It's how you condense sentences
into sort of like bullet points. Yes.
So I actually had to reprint that about 4 times before I got it right.
To be happy with what you put down there.
Yeah, we had a lot of collaboration, a lot of work over it, me and my trainer.
Okay, yeah. But it was a fantastic and beautiful speech, and I'm so sure people who listened to you this morning must have taken on board a few things, especially people who probably themselves are, suffering from mental disability or have people in their lives, relatives or friends.
Yeah.
So they have a better understanding of where people like yourself are coming from.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Another thing I also wanted to ask you is, when, very briefly, at what age did you encounter mental disability? And what kind of assistance did you get from home and from the health sector at the time?
Well, the thing is, I think when I started to run into emotional and psychological problems, as I've explained in longer speeches, it started round about 1981 actually, when my mother and father divorced.
Okay.
Because I was left to support a home, a house on my own. I was having to work, and I just couldn't cope. I was struggling all around, Depression was kicking in, attachment issues.
All those things, yeah.
Separation, abandonment, isolation and loneliness. So much that it come to the extent I became a recluse from about the year 1980, the end of 1981 to about the end of 1984. I was a virtual recluse in those days.
So in that 1980-81, how old were you then?
I was just about 21 or 22 years old.
Just like a youth of today, very young, with ambitions of doing something with your life, and then something like that happens and totally threw your life into disarray.
It threw my life into disarray. It did, because before I had a 6 day. I was doing well from about the age 17 until about the age 19.
Okay.
Because what happened is that I was working for the civil service 5 days a week.
Okay.
And then I was having 1 day a week at Harrods as a lift operator.
Oh, okay, the Harrods, yeah.
The Harrods.
Okay.
I actually worked there, and what happened, I went a bit doolally because I was enjoying the conviviality of drink and mind-altering substances as a wind down after work. But I didn't think, but in those days I wasn't aware of what effect this would generally have on me. You see, so what happened is that after my mum and dad split up in 1981, I was about 19 years old. It was round about that time that I started running into these problems.
Okay, so that was really a young age, at that time for any youth, for any child. Now, what was your experience like as a young man in those days, compared to what obtains today in 2011?
Well, back in those days, it was more to do with, I felt as if I was running away from me. I felt I had a very suspicious mind about other people.
Of anybody and everything.
Of anybody and everything. I was running from a group of people to group of people over the years, and in a way,
even though, Tony, you felt that the split with your parents and the family thing, you felt detachment.
Yes.
But at the same time, you were also detaching yourself from people and from the groups of people that you knew.
Yes. What I've realised in the year 2011, as you say, in recent years, is that the only person I've been running away from is me.
Is you, yourself.
I've just been running away from me. And I had to face this person there, As I said.
So it's about reality check.
Yeah, reality check. It is, it's like a reality check. But, as I said, being big, black and dangerous is one thing, but now I'm big, black and quite delectable.
Which, I love the way that you actually said that. And delectable. Now, how did you, after many years of, obviously overcoming your mental disability, and what were the factors that enabled you and aided you to the road of recovery?
The fact is, I think there was an incident that happened between me and my mother where the police were involved, and that was a turning point. And ever since then, I don't know, I started attending recovery classes, day centres and such.
Okay.
And then from there, for some strange reason, I just kept going back to these day centres and recovery classes, and I just started to get involved in reading literature, self-help books, and I just grew from there. But then, as time wore on, it came to my conscience, you know, that what does my family think of me? Plus, there was the birth of my little nephew Ezra when I was about 6 months off the bottle.
Okay.
You know, I'd already put the drugs down, but now it's 6 months off the bottle, and then my little nephew was born. And ever since then, he's been a shining light in my eye. And I think if you're going to do something right with your life, Tony, meaning me,
Yeah.
I think the only way you're going to do that, son, is to keep doing what you're doing, try and get better at what you're doing with your recovery, more involvement, and prove it to your nephew that you're worth it. Because
For him to call you uncle.
for him to call me uncle.
Yeah.
You know, because, I mean, you know, if Ezra grew up and he was 13 or 14 years old, and I was in the mess I was up until the year 2005, what would he be thinking?
He probably wouldn't even really know you,
Yes.
you know, and not have a relationship with you either.
Then there's my mother's feelings to consider, you know. My mother's been like a rock for me all through the years. But simply, what's happened is that my mother now, she's very pleased with the way I'm carrying on now. But now I'm beginning to consider, look at how much pain I put her through.
In those years
My
past.
father couldn't reach me, even though then my mum and dad were split up. My father couldn't reach me, but then I was always close to my mother. So I'm forever apologising. I'm making it up to her.
Do you want to say something? Look at that camera. Say something to Mum out there, because I'm sure she's watching this morning.
Mum?
Yeah.
I don't know what to say to you, but I know you've been like a rock for me for all the years. And I'd just like to say, you know, that I hope I'm doing you proud. And, you know, as everyone says when they're on TV, hello, Mum.
Hello, Mum. I know that Uche has pictures of you, how you looked like when you were that's you there. When you were very, very young.
That person with the black jacket
with the black jacket, with the bow tie.
First with the bow tie, that's him there.
Look, that's Mr. Delectable. Mr. Young Delectable.
Mr. Young Delectable. But even that person, I remember him, he was running from group to group. This was me about 3 years into recovery.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Of course, see the amount of weight I put on.
But you've lost all that weight now?
I've lost all that weight, well, most of it.
Thank you so much for coming to share with us, Tony. I just want you to also sort of, because of people, again, who are probably, you know, living with mental disability and not knowing what to do, where to turn, speaking again on our theme, which is mental disability, an expert by experience. What are your thoughts that you'd want to share with people who might be suffering, young people as you were back then, and those who also care for them?
Yeah. Well, now I have seen a lot of things, and no doubt you suffering people out there have as well. There's a lot of obstacles in our way, but I hope from today I'll give a message of hope. I mean, real hope that, you know, you're not going to get grabbed by the dark side of the force, you know, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. All it takes is a little commitment for you to tell yourself, I want to recover. That's all it takes. And if I can do it, then you can do it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. It's been a delight having you on the Princess Arize show. My warm regards to Mum and the rest of the family, and your nephew.
And nephew, yes.
And hopefully you continue to recover. And who knows what other long speech you're going to write for us next time.
I'll be back.
I'll be back, definitely. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We've been speaking to Mr. Tony Millar. Tony is, of course, somebody who has been recovering from mental disability, and he's been here this morning to share with us his experiences, his journey, what he's had to go through, and where he's at today. I mean, if he didn't share with us, you'd probably walk by him on the road or meet him somewhere, you would never have a clue that that has been his journey and his background. It's still Princess of Arize. We're going to have a little short break, and we're bringing on our next guest, Toyin Ogunbanjo, who herself has worked with people with mental disability, and she is also a counselor and a health and lifestyle practitioner. Don't go away. See you shortly. You're welcome back. It's so Princess of Arize coming to you on Ben Television, Sky Channel 184. And of course, our theme today is mental disabilities, an expert by experience. My next guest is Mrs. Toyin Ogunbanjo. She's been on the Princess of Arize show before in the past, and she's someone I call an expert in listening. She is the CEO and founder of Listening Ears, which is a charity trust. And she herself is also a very experienced health and lifestyle practitioner. So, Toyin, my dear friend and sister, nice to see you again.
Thank you very much.
I was thinking of the time I was putting this particular episode together, and I was thinking of who's the right person I can bring to balance what Mr. Tony Millar is going to be talking about in the area of mental disabilities, being an experienced person or being an expert. And the one name that came to my mind was yourself, obviously because of what you do in the health sector and also what you do as a counselor. And like you always say, there's no end to covering all the topics that there exists in the art or the skill of listening. I saw that you and Tony also had a little bit of talk in the blue room before you came in. So first of all, obviously maybe some people might remember seeing you, but some people are just probably seeing you for the first time. Who is Toyin Ogunbanjo?
Well, I founded and coordinate Listening Ears, which is a volunteer organization. We provide emotional health and lifestyle support service to people in the community.
Okay. Now, what is it to, okay, let me put it this way. We know that you have also encountered mental disability, through the work that you do in the health sector and the people that you've met, and particularly through your counseling and the Listening Ear organization. What have been your findings over the period of time?
Well, it's such a shame because there's a lot of stigma around these mental health issues. And it's funny because everybody does have one little type of mental health issue or the other. But unfortunately, because there are different grades, so people who have pronounced ones seem to have some suffering under an attack of a stigma, as if something out of the ordinary is happening to them. Okay. And it's so sad because a lot of times people are ashamed to come out and talk about their problems because, of course, they are afraid of the kind of reaction they're going to get from people, from the society, and funnily even from the family sometimes, which is very...
A lot of times
from the family, which is so sad. You see, because it's bad enough that the society is not helping, but then when the family too can't put in support, then it's such a shame.
It's such a shame. If someone that has had a similar disability to Tony, you've had a little chat with him, so you know a little bit about him.
Yes.
So someone that's had that kind of experience in the past, how do you go about handling or dealing with the situation?
Okay. Well, generally, I'm not a mental health expert, although I've had some training around mental health first aid, and that is it, first aid. So basically, everybody knows what first aid means, so it's maybe the first point of call. And then because it's a very wide issue, so it depends on what exactly is the type of mental health issue. Okay. But then we don't work in isolation, we work in partnership with loads of other organizations and service providers. So basically when the assessment is done, and then we are able to identify what exactly is the problem the person has, then we're able to know in what direction we need to direct the person or signpost the person. But then basically, like we are listening ears, the first thing we want to do is to listen
to that person
and see where they are coming from without any kind of judgmental attitude.
The reason I ask that is one of the problems that Tony had, and I believe a lot of people have in the area of mental health, mental disability, is that the lack of listening. Even the so-called medical experts, the so-called experts in the field, lack the art or the skill of listening. And he said he had that for so many years. I mean, one of his care workers told him that he was suffering from delusions of grandeur.
Can you imagine?
Just because he told the person,
Yes, sir.
I am the expert here, and the reason is that I'm the one that's lived this journey.
Exactly.
You know, so in listening skills and what you provide at listening ears, how would you have dealt with somebody like
Well,
Tony?
you see,
Because first of all, don't forget that at that time, many years ago, nearly 30 years ago, he was labeled as big, black, and dangerous.
you see what I mean? As a matter of fact, this brings us to why listening as actually was formed from the word go. You see, because there is an adage that says that a problem shared is already half solved. You see, when people have problems and they have somebody to listen, the person listening does not even necessarily need to have a solution. But the fact that the person has the readiness to even share, that person feels some kind of relief that at least at this point I am not alone anymore. And then there is a readiness to want to even start to tackle the problem. So it's so sad, and you see, I think it's a kind of a vicious cycle, because the doctor who wants to listen, sometimes the doctor wants to listen, but they cannot afford to because of the queue they have. Because I understand a doctor has an average of about 5 or 7 minutes to a patient.
Yes.
And you see, there are loads of people. In fact, the person who has these issues, before he even gets himself round about talking about it, the 5 minutes is gone. So even if the doctor wanted to listen, he cannot afford to. Exactly. That's why it really pains me to the heart when members of the family who supposedly live with these people, who are supposed to actually give them the support necessary, at least from the beginning, you know, to at least get them some kind of support so they can start on the long journey, because it's always a very long journey. It is, and that's why I say that is why listening has actually came up, because we know that when people are isolated, which is where it starts from most of the time, when people are lonely, when they are isolated, and if nothing is done about that, gradually they start sinking down. Before you know what is happening, they get depressed. And the moment depression sets in, there is no end to where the thing can even get to. So that's why we think when people have a space to talk, a space to share, somebody to listen, at least at the, when it's just beginning to happen, they can get some support and they can actually get out of the problem before it spirals into something that is completely out of hand.
And at times people don't even know. You don't even know that you're sort of ebbing towards depression.
Exactly.
You can always say, oh, I can deal with that.
In fact, most of the time.
I can deal with that.
Most of the time.
And we sort of put on our glad rags, our clothes. Somebody was telling me one day that there are madder people in clothes than people that are half naked walking the street.
I tell you. That is very correct. And you see, that boils down to the fact of the societal reaction to people. Because you see, if people know that if they come out with the problems they have, they will be accepted for who they are, why they receive support to get to who they need to be, it will be a totally different kettle of fish. But you see, unfortunately, people know that if I tell them now, they're going to label me. So they would rather cover it up and then keep on living a fake life. I mean, the moment they put on their powder, put on their makeup, clothes, and they look so dainty and lovely, nobody knows anything is wrong with them. But then when they get to the four walls of their rooms, and then they are back to reality, and it's so terrible. They are there alone on their own. That's why, I mean, I was just sharing with Tony, who was talking to me about one lady who jumped in front of the train. I mean, she must have been thinking about these things for a long time. And I'm sure if she had spoken to somebody to say, you know what, I really feel fed up or something like that, maybe you will have gotten some kind of encouragement. But it's sad.
And on that really sad note, because obviously it's Black History Month, we know that this sort of thing is also very prevalent in the African and Caribbean
unfortunately
community. So it's something we all need to address. But my question to you, Toyin, is this something that, because mental disability or mental health is to do with the health sector, so should it be the primary concern and responsibility of the NHS or the health sector, or is it to do with the family of the patient?
Okay.
Or should we say maybe it's also to do with the society at large?
Well, I think
starting with the person themselves.
I think everybody has a role to play, actually. Big roles for everybody. The society have their role to play, to look at stigmatizing people. I mean, we have to have a change of mindset about this issue. The family has a very big role to play.
So family is very
exactly.
key.
You remember the last time I was on air here?
Yes.
We spoke about listening with more than our ears.
Yes.
Now we're talking about body language of the members of the family. There are some people who cannot even be comfortable enough for people to know that they have a relation who has some problems with mental health, which is very sad.
Is that just part of denial?
It is a part of denial, which is very sad. That's why I said the family has a very large role to play. If the family can give the initial support, then, because you see, it's so difficult, at least from my experience, for the person who is actually suffering to actually come up and say I am suffering.
I am mad.
It's difficult. Exactly. In fact, to start to say,
depression.
even to say things as little as, I really don't know what is wrong with me. It's difficult for a lot of people.
To say.
But if they have somebody in the family who is ready to say, you know what, I'm going to stand by you. We are with you and we will see you through this. And they go together, try to book appointment. You know what, with our people, a lot of times I tell people always think people see a counselor when they don't have it together anymore. And I tell them it's good for you to see a counselor so that you can have it together. Because if you wait until the time you don't have it together again, then it will have gotten, it will have gotten out of hand. So the society, the family will do its own bit by supporting that person. Okay. The health sector will only do so much. Exactly. If they diagnose the person, for instance, if it has to have some kind of medication, then fine. But for me, I always feel that a lot of times people need more of human support, human love, human acceptance, understanding, support, encouragement, you know, things that can actually make them to believe again in living and
Tony,
in themselves.
Thank you, Tony. Tony was actually sharing with me off camera about the 5 things that he felt had helped him recover from being, you know, a mentally challenged person. Yeah. He said it's a holistic approach to it, that there's a spiritual angle, there's a social angle. He said there's also something called the support system from not only the family but the larger society. He said there's also self. You know, and there was one other thing which I've forgotten, but there were 5 pillars. He called them the 5 pillars. And what is your take on that? Yeah,
I think it's really so true. And the interesting thing is that all those pillars, they are all interlinked. Because in fact, before he can actually get anything from self, he has to have a kind of a motivation which will come from the members of the family. Because if the members of the family are supporting him, he will start to believe in it. Even if he doesn't believe in himself, he will start to know that there is somebody beside me who wants to actually support. And that will actually make him to start to believe in himself and then give what he needs to give from his own perspective to actually make it work. Because and then, of course, the society, as we said, we have to start to stop, you know, labeling people. Because, you see, it could happen to anyone at any time.
That's the one thing that a lot of us don't quite take on board, that this, you know, having mental challenges or mental health challenges.
It can happen to anybody.
Depressions. Nobody says, tomorrow I am going to be
nobody does.
Or next week I think I'm going to go into a depression.
Exactly.
These things, they creep on you. And at times it can actually be sudden. Maybe a death in the family, or loss of a job, or, you know, anything could really...
Most of the time, because it is usually starts when people don't prepare for what has happened. And then it has taken them unawares. And depending on how much they can cope with emergencies, then they start to... So that's what actually determines where do they go. Do they handle it? Do they break down? So it can really happen to anybody.
And before you go, I'm going to ask you, obviously, your own take on our theme today, which is mental disability and expert by experience. You know, there must be something that you want to say to.
Yeah, that's interesting, because when we were actually talking off camera and we were chatting, I was saying that when you talk about experience, there is actually no university where you can learn it. There is nothing like having been there. I mean, it's much easier when you want to give support to people if you are talking and giving advice from an angle you have been. But if it's just what you have read in the books or in the university, it's so difficult. It's like you're just being theoretical, and people, if you have people who are really bold in that class, they can tell you, have you been there? And if you cannot give that answer, so there is actually nothing like having experienced something and then talking out of it to either enable other people or to empower them or to encourage them to know that at least if I could get out of it, then you can snap out of it. So that's my take on that.
Thank you so much. What is happening with them listening ears these days?
Interesting. Since the last time I was here,
Yes.
well, we've run quite a number of trainings on. We are very passionate about health and lifestyle. We've run some trainings around healthy eating, nutrition, weight management. In fact, as a matter of fact, as I speak to you, we are running some sessions in Zumba dancing because we are looking at ways people can actually manage their weight and at the same time have some fun, which is like a practical step when we have given them all the theory of how to actually eat well and live well. And then again, after I was here last, we've started the Young Girls program, which we call Rosebud.
Okay.
It's for girls 13 to 19. And
The teenage
years. Yes. And the vision is to support and nurture them in readiness for womanhood. Because we believe it takes a lot to actually answer the name woman. And we think they need a lot of support. Get them where they are at without any judgment. Accept them for who they are.
Listening. Nobody listens
my dear,
to young people.
A lot of listening.
You remember when we were teenagers, who listened to us?
Nobody. That's
Nobody
the thing.
Maybe
Nobody.
God, but apart from that, nobody listened
As a
to
matter
us.
of that, that's what
You must be seen and not heard.
I tell you, how many things did I also listen to when my daughter was a teenager? So I thought, you know what, if I have that opportunity now, I can actually support these girls and we can get somebody to listen to them, give them an atmosphere where they can be real, they can actually be themselves, accepted for who they are, and then support and nurture them to get to where they need to be. So that's been going on, and it's been going on very well. And we just keep on, helping the people in the community. Then we have another drop-in center now for the elderly, where people can chill out, have a cup of tea, sandwich, and make friends.
Mm-hmm. And on that note, I think I should like to say thank you so much again for coming. And well done indeed for all that you do.
Thank you.
In the community and with listening ears.
You.
And the sky, as they say, is not the limit.
And can I also on that note say we will appreciate more volunteers
for listening ears. So anybody that wants to volunteer
can go on our website
www.listeningears.org.
Yes.
And then you'll be able to contact our lovely, delectable Toyin Ogunbanjo.
Thank you.
I want to say a big thank you to both my guests who have come on board today. Thank you to, of course, Mr. Tony Millar, who is recovering very well from being a mentally challenged young person and a mature man. Now he's actually doing courses at Open University and he's giving talks and speeches around the country. Thank you again also to Toyin Ogunbanjo, who is always very happy to jump on board and give her own kudos and her own help and support to just making everybody in society live a better life. Before I say goodbye, I want to say we will be welcoming people to our next event, which is the BIFIN, British Female Inventors and Innovators Network. It's our conference, exhibition and award, which we're doing in collaboration with British Inventor Society on the 5th of October. If you want any more information, if you're an inventive, innovative and exceptionally creative woman, contact me on 07737 204 694 or go to our website www.gwyn.com. I'd also like to say a big thank you to my jeweler, Loretta, who has been kind enough to put this beautiful piece together for me to wear on the Princess of Arize show. If you'd like her to do something like this for you, you can always contact myself again or just go on to www.byloreal.com. All too soon, our time is up. Thank you so much for watching. A big kudos to my dream team, to Uche, Tony, Benjamin, the staff and management of Ben Television, to you out there for tuning in to be with us this Saturday morning. Happy anniversary to our lovely, lovely country, Nigeria. Yes, we're 51. So congratulations to Mr. President and every Nigerian on the face of the planet, and to God Almighty, who makes all things beautiful in his own time. Take care of yourselves as we continue to arise as positive change agents. Till same time next week. God bless you. See you soon.
shall be